with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone can please remain standing for a minute to observe a moment of silence in honor of our troops, those who are serving overseas, and those who have lost their lives in defense of our freedoms. Okay, thank you. If everyone can please be seated. Oh, I have two of these.
You got two?
I'll give you.
No, one is the water, one is the sewer, one is the
No,
regular.
this is general fund.
What did you give me?
This is general
the
fund.
same? Okay.
Are we doing all three hearings tonight?
No,
Just the general, right?
Oh yeah, we only have to do the regular budget.
Right.
Okay, good evening everybody and welcome to the 2013-2014 Special Village Board meeting to address the Village Treasurer's preliminary budget. What I would like to do first is to briefly highlight some of the items in the budget. First, this process began in the beginning of January with the treasurer giving each department head their budget worksheets in which they would go through it and look at their needs and their desires for the next year. And then a process went beyond that to the point where we are here. So in terms of highlighting where we are, obviously the number one concern that people have is our taxes going up. And presently our increase is at 1.78%. The current proposed budget that everybody has a copy of. So we're very happy with that. For the second straight year, we are below the state mandated property tax cap of 2%. Obviously that takes a lot of hard work and that is quite uncommon in today's environment, faced with many mandates that all municipalities face. So again, that's kudos to everybody here for their hard work. In addition, at the end of our last audited financial results, which was May 31st, 2011, the year ending that date, the village the village fund stood at a $27,000 deficit, which, although a small deficit, is still a deficit. Currently, our draft audit report, which closes the year end 31st, 2012, shows a fund balance, and this number will not change as the report is finalized, of $60,847. So now we are presently in the black, and with about 9 weeks remaining in the current fiscal year that ends May 31st, 2013. Once again, when the books close on 2012-2013, we expect to again be in the black, adding to our fund balance. So again, that's very important, not only the level of the tax increase, but that our books are balanced and that we're in the black. Also, what I'd like to do is to highlight the hard work of this board over the last number of years in terms of how we've been able to keep those costs under control. And one major aspect of it is that currently our full-time staffing over the last 3 years has decreased by about 10%, with no decrease in services through attrition and shifting of positions around the village. This translates to an annual savings of $704,000 a year, and our 3-year payroll sum has increased by a total of 2.4%. So that's less than 1% a year, and that includes raises that are contractually agreed with both the CSEA, the PBA, the dispatchers union, as well as giving raises to our non-union department heads and other employees who are not in the union. In addition, I think an unbelievable highlight is where we are in terms of our debt and debt service. We have been able to reduce our debt service as a percentage of our budget during the last several years from 5.6% to 4.9%. And that represents an annual savings of previously $850,000 a year to $805,000 a year. So our debt service has gone down $45,000 a year. At the same time, we've been able to invest $5.48 million in infrastructure improvements. And that's a pretty amazing feat to be able to reduce your debt and invest millions of dollars in infrastructure. That includes $1.4 million with 40 new roadways, resurfaced and new curbs, $1.3 million in our sewer plant upgrades, $125,000 in water plant and water tower upgrades, $102,000 with the DPW street garage, $75,000 for odor control system at the sewer pump station. And currently set for this year, 2013, we plan on investing another $2.1 million in sewer upgrades and an additional significant road project that we're looking at in the neighborhood of $400,000. So again, I think that that's a tremendous feat, and that everybody here deserves the credit. A couple of other items are, since obviously revenues are hard to come by and we live in a difficult environment, what we've asked to do is to have our large tax-exempt properties in the community that really serve more than just our village, but serve the entire region, but house themselves here in the Village of Suffern, and as a result use our services like police and fire, to ask them to voluntarily make a contribution to ease the burden on Suffern families and seniors within our village. And I'm proud to announce that already currently in the budget, we have negotiated 2 trailblazing agreements, one with Esther Gitlow Towers and the other with Good Samaritan Hospital, in which they are voluntarily contributing, between the two of them, $100,000 a year to our budget. Also, I would like to announce at this time, probably the last open item that hopefully will lead to a further reduction in our tax increase. Trustee Falciglia and I attended a meeting at the Salvation Army 2 days ago. We had a very open, honest, and frank conversation with the people in charge there, and we've gotten word that they acknowledge that the original contribution that they gave to the village in 1978 has really been outpaced significantly by inflation, and that they will increase their contribution to the village, and that we will know that number within a week. So once we hear that, if it is obviously a number that we'll be happy with, that we could look to obviously further reduce the levy that we're increasing from 1.78 to something lower than that. And then the last couple of items I'd like to touch upon is 2 big things which this administration inherited, as I mentioned earlier, was the condition of the sewer plant, which was really just in disrepair to a point where not only the DEC of the state, but the EPA of the federal government was taking a strong look at our sewer and potentially coming down with significant fines. So immediately we addressed that issue. We plugged the holes, but also created a long-term debt borrowing of $3 million to reinvest in our sewer plant. And also this board felt, and I felt, that I could feel safe talking for them, that we felt that if we were going to spend $3 million in rebuilding our sewer plant, we had to ensure that we had new staff in place to make sure that that investment was protected. And so we've done great there, and potentially a sewer one deficit that ran as high as over $700,000 a year. We are projecting a 22% decrease in the sewer fund deficit for the current year, and per our deficit reduction plan, we expect to be deficit free by May 31st, 2017 in the sewer plant, while investing $3 million. Similarly, in the water fund, we had faced a long-term deficit of over $500,000. Right now, we're projecting an 18% decrease in the long-term water fund deficit from May 31st, 2010 to the end of this fiscal year. And pursuant to our deficit reduction plan, we will be deficit-free in the water fund by May 2016. The other 2 items I'd like to highlight, and then obviously open it to the board and then the public for any comment, would be that in terms of energy, we have saved a great deal of money by aggressively pricing our energy to take advantage of low energy prices due to a difficult economy, as well as increasing efficiencies in our sewer plant that saw alone a 20% reduction in energy use just by improving our efficiencies at the sewer plant. And overall, year over year, we've decreased our energy costs by 13.5%, which translates into hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings to Suffern residents. And lastly, you can cut costs, you can create efficiencies, and you can reduce payroll through attrition, but you also need to increase revenues. And I'm proud to say that this year, through downtown revitalization, including a new anchor store, 2 condominium developments, a new senior tower at Gitlow, and a $3 million renovation to Gitlow 1, that we're going to have nearly $50 million of downtown construction that will expand our tax base, bring in building fees, and make downtown Suffern the economic hub of Western Ramapo and Western Rockland County. So again, those are the highlights. As this is my last budget meeting, I figured it would fitting to review what we've all accomplished together. First, let me thank Tom Zordan, our treasurer, who worked very hard. We started off rough because in our first meeting this year, within the first meeting, I actually talked about spending $10,000 new dollars in something that I wanted to propose in the budget, and Tom got very nervous that we were going to be in a spending mode. But obviously, we do need to invest, but we do control costs. And led by Tom and the rest of our department heads, I can honestly say that we employ zero-based budgeting in this village. Tom and I go through every line of the budget, as well as the Board of Trustees, line by line, over 700 lines. We look at what a department head had previous year in the line, the previous 2 years in the line, what they have currently year to date, and what they're looking for going forward for the next year. And unless they can justify why they haven't spent a dollar or why they need a dollar, we don't just give blanket money in. And that's how we've been able to control costs. So along with Tom and our department heads and this village board, I applaud everyone for their hard effort that Suffern really is bucking the trend of a lot of municipalities. And again, thank you, and I'd like to open it to comment to the village board.
Well, I'm very happy that the Salvation Army is receptive to increasing their payment in lieu of taxes. One thing, though, what I would like to see with them is maybe tying that number we come up with to our annual increase or decrease, if there's ever going to be a decrease, so that amount keeps escalating each year and keeps pace with the amount we ask the taxpayers. Something that we threw out to them that we should consider. So if they come back at 40,000 and then we go up 2%, we bump it to 48 and, compound it, of course, so that as this goes on yearly, the amount keeps going up.
I think that is, I think that's fair, and that's why I think we got into that situation, because $10,000 in 1978, we had $1.5 million budget, and as everyone sees right here, right now we're at $11.9 million. So that 10,000 hasn't gone up, but hopefully we'll hear back in a week with a good number.
I think we pointed out if they had just increased that 500 a year, it'd probably be what we were looking for now. So.
Exactly.
Charles is finished?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, just a point I wanted to make, and then I had little 2 points. The one, very briefly, is that there's a limit in time to our contribution from a Good Samaritan Hospital. It's limited to 2 years, and we're hopeful that it will continue on. It's based on the relationship that we will have with the hospital, but this is something I've been complaining about for ages, and I congratulate the mayor on being able to achieve this, to get some money from them, because they provide a service to a large region, half of Rockland County essentially, and a lot of northern New Jersey. Yet when it comes to fire and police services, it's all on the taxpayers of the Village of Suffern, so it makes a lot of sense for them to contribute to us. The other thing, the building permit line under revenues has increased from 180 to $410,000, and this is because of the building that the mayor had alluded to, and but I would ask you, Mayor, if you could. And I'm aware of the components, and because of my conversations with Mr. Zordan, but I'd like to, if you could just, allude to, or, put
specifics.
Yeah, specifics. Sure. The specific projects and the specific amounts.
Sure, that's very fair. I can do that. Normally we feel comfortable, I believe, like in a typical year with stuff that we don't particularly enumerate in there, but that we know happens, like normal additions that people will do, putting on a garage. So there are typical permits that will come up just in the normal course of business. And we feel comfortable with an amount of $100,000 or so in a typical year. Obviously, to have a number of $400,000, we anticipate significant revenue. And again, this is just a budget, so we're raising a tax levy based on what we believe our expenses will be come the end of the year. And I think what we've done, which is good, is over the last few years, even when we had a deficit or a surplus, our deficit or surplus is pretty much within 0.5%. So here we sit, in March of 2013, predicting where we'll be come May 31st, 2014. And in the last 3 years, we've been within 0.5% pretty much every year. But again, we're not estimating things that we don't think are going to happen. So everything that we're talking about in the revenue has been approved. So the new Gitlow Tower, Gitlow 3, which has been approved by the planning board and is now going before the building department, that in addition to the garage that's going to go with that is $17 million. And our building permit fees are 1% of the estimated construction cost. So that would be $170,000. In addition, Gitlow 1, the original building, is undergoing an overhaul, new windows, new kitchens, new bathrooms in every unit. And that's a $3 million project. The money has been approved by HUD. They're just going through the application process. And my understanding there is that that should look to begin within 6 months or less. So again, the money's there, it's going to happen, it's just a matter of timing, and that at $3 million would be another $30,000. In addition, we have Ace Rainbow, the new anchor store at the site of the OTB. The estimated construction there, again, they're coming into the village, they bought the property, they're moving forward. We know they want to be open by back to school sale by September. They're meeting this week with various officials in the village to start their process. So we believe that that is going to be a $2 to $3 million renovation. So another $25,000 to $30,000 in fees there. Then we have the 2 condominium projects. First, the Wayne Avenue project of 21 units, where I believe construction there will be about $3 million. So that again is another $30,000 permit. And then the construction, and that has also been approved by the planning board and is moving forward. So that is final site plan approval. And the 48 units on the site of Conserve, another condominium project, that's 48 units. I think the estimated construction there, we said, is what, like $6 million? Around $6 million. And that would be about $60,000. Okay. So those are, I think if you add them up, what are we around there? Just on those. You have the numbers, Jack.
I'm so used to working in Excel.
So what are we, 170, 30, 30,
110.
60. That's 315 again, and that's not including
I got
additional work.
418.
What?
I got 418.
So 350, if that's is that 315? Is that 315?
We all
We all get different numbers here.
Yeah, I think
Wait.
that's.
That's 50.
So whatever that number there, so again, that's not including regular work, anything's done by the hospital or anything else. So actually we feel pretty comfortable that that's actually a pretty conservative estimate. Okay. So I think that there's gonna be additional fees, but we wanted to keep it obviously looking, knowing what's in the hopper, but also being conservative. So. Oh, and also let me say one thing about Jack, because everyone does their part. Mr. Meehan secured about $35,000 on the while the quarry project is in the planning stages or in proposal stages. That the developer agreed to put it back on the tax rolls, and I'll give Mr. Meehan due credit for getting that done. So again, that's continuing revenue that's in the budget. So any other board members? Any other questions? Okay. If anyone would like to come up from the public, please do.
Jim Genatino, 2 Memorial. Using your figures of $315,000 on building permits, you're at what, 430? Do you foresee that type of private development to generate that 115,000 additional?
I think just based on these big projects, we know that there's work going on in the hospital. There are a couple of other things. Yeah, I think that based on a 315 number of large projects that we know are in, I think based on our typical years of revenue otherwise, still leads this number to be pretty conservative.
Okay, now I'll get to the reason why I'm questioning it. You have 180,000 projected this year. So far, you've got 80,000. You have 3 months to bring in another 100,000. So I think it's safe to say you're not going to hit that mark.
It does depend on, I think, the Gitlow project. Again, where that revenue falls in between. It may be in next year, it is in the budget. But again, I think that's something we can address with, if it comes in early, it would add to the fund balance. And then we would probably look to amend the budget to amend back some of the funding. Because again, it's exactly hard to predict exactly when it comes in. But I do know there's a hospital project, and there are other number of small projects, and potentially another $3 million project, which we're just waiting on finance for the Brooker office building, which is approved. It's a $3 million project. They have the site plan approval. He's just waiting to get financing. So I'm pretty optimistic that's going to happen, but that's not budgeted. So
unfortunately, that sign coming soon has been here since I've been in Suffern. It's 40 years.
No, no, but I understand. But again, Jim, just so you know where it is that Mr. Brooker has not really actively sought to move forward on the building since the economic crisis the last couple of years. Now he is, and it's just a matter of the financing. So again, there's potential there, but that is not reflected in the budget. And I don't know, do we know the number of what the hospital was doing? Because I know there's some decent construction that's still... Oh, also, sorry, we have in there, I forgot, there's another project that's a little over $1 million, which are the 11 additional units, Terry? How many units up at Pavilion Road? Yeah. There's 11 additional units that already have approval and is before the building department. So that's another, I think, 1.5 million. So that's
where is that?
Where Pavilion Road is. The apartments.
Where they tore down the old building?
Correct.
Those are rentals, correct?
They're condominiums, but right now they're renting them. They are condominiums though. And he's building another 11 units. And that's $15,000 in fees that I didn't include there.
All right, the real reason I'm questioning these building numbers is you're going to not hit your mark this year, more than likely, okay? You may get close, I don't know. The previous year, you were about 200,000 off your projected building permit budget. Some of these same projects were counted in that budget, and they weren't even approved from the planning board. So I don't know if they're going to start. And by the way, I wish they do something at 166 Wayne, because there are trees that have fallen on that building. And once school is out, I was a kid, I used to love to climb trees, especially when you can just walk right up. So I wish that would get taken care of, even though that's not a budget item. Moving right along.
Let me just go back to that. Again, these items, anything that we put in the budget based on the large projects, anything which has been approved. And again, yeah, look, we try to be conservative with certain, with revenue overall, and I can just say at the end of the year, if we were off on some revenues, then other increased revenue came out, and we are in the black. So we do the best we can based on, the facts we have.
I understand that completely, but when there is a 2 or 3 year period where you're missing the mark by close to $100,000 or more, I don't think you're being conservative enough. That's my opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Now, I notice a big reduction in recreation, and I kind of understand why, but I understand you're going to hire a person to replace the director.
Correct.
I don't know what you're going to start that person at, but you're looking at a $48,000 difference in your budget.
50.
Could be 50, depending on which version of the budget you're looking at.
Just give me 1 second. Let me look at the. It's 35. What's the difference? 35,000, and that's pretty much the difference in salary.
That's our,
Okay, on that issue.
Your inspection fees. Code enforcement inspection fees. It's at $24,000. The last actual year on record was 2012 and was $2,900. That's kind of a jump.
Tom, can you come up and address any?
Yeah, go ahead,
Tom. In the past, the code enforcement fees, which are called civil compromise, were kept segregated from court fees. And in 2008, the judge changed how they were accounted for. He wanted all the fees being credited to his account. So when I was doing 2009, this was the only information I had, and I was told after the fact that they changed it. So some of those fees were actually credited to the court as fines instead of code enforcement civil compromise fines. So that's why there's such a jump.
I always understood it to be civil compromises went to the building department, and levied fines by the judge went to the court. Did that change at all?
That's what changed. Because even though the building department assesses the fine, the code enforcement writes out the
Puts
ticket.
the penalty.
Right. The judge administers the case. So he wanted that money to come through the court system, and that's how it's been handled for the
It's
last
not the way
year.
it's supposed to be.
That's how they're doing it now. I don't control the court.
No, I know you don't, but it was always civil compromises went to the building department.
Right.
Judgments went to the court.
Yeah, I mean, just so we're clear, just on this issue, it's an allocation issue. It doesn't go directly to that department. It's just whose account it's credited to. It still obviously all goes to the general fund.
Okay. There's one thing in here that I'm sure you took off already, is the $2,000 bingo revenue. There's no more bingo in the Village of Suffern. Nah, well, fortunately. You never saw that $2,000. CHIPS money, I noticed it's up to 90,000. Is that what we're getting now, not 60?
Correct, what was it? Yeah, 88,000. Yeah, 89 change.
Okay, your FEMA line is showing 100,000 in 2014. That's not taking into consideration the $1,084,000 for the demolition of those homes and any money that was outlaid?
No, I guess you can say how we've allocated some of that in the expenses as they've gone along.
You're on.
Laying out a million.
Sorry?
The village is not laying out.
No, we haven't included that money in the budget yet. The reality is the money's going to come in and come out, and until I get the final, they say, okay, here's going to be the check, then we'll amend the budget.
You haven't gotten any money yet.
No, we didn't get any money. But if it happens, it could eventually, not likely, but it could happen before. It could happen before this year's over. It's not likely that it'll happen before May 31st, but it could. So I'm not going to put it into next year in case it were to happen. But if it did happen, it's just going in and out, and the net effect is going to be zero.
So where do we anticipate this $100,000 coming from for this year's budget?
We're going to be receiving money from the last storm.
Sandy.
But you may not see that.
No, they actually are pretty quick.
That's the money that we automatically get is the reimbursement for fire use and refuse and that kind of stuff, the hours.
One other question. Whatever happened to the water deal with Hillburn?
Whatever happened to the water deal with Hillburn?
Bernie Jackson lost the election, so I guess that's the end of that.
No, if he would have won it, you would have been in the same position. I got news.
No, what happened with the water deal with Hillburn is it makes economic sense, but a huge capital outlay is required by the village for the building of a pumping station. And, you know, since we last built one, which I don't know if it was at the tail end of your administration or it was beginning of the previous administration, the prices have doubled. So we went for a government efficiency grant. We did not get it. So it is still somewhat economical to do, and we're still talking about it. But again, we want to reapply for the grant because we have some basis to believe that if we tweak our application and look at it a different way and maybe apply a different way, that, I mean, I don't want to speak for the grant writer, that it's worth taking another shot at. And then moving forward. Again, remember, they still have an agreement with United Water, and United Water has said that there is a willingness to, let's say, if we are in the planning stages, which would be like, I think this summer, was it 2013 or 14 that they were done?
13.
The years go quick. That we could, you know, that they would maybe go month to month, so everyone's kind of, everyone's open to it, and obviously we want to get funding to make it more economical.
They also had to apply for a grant for that too, didn't they?
Yeah,
Hilbert?
what we did is we did it together, and I think that each one was allowed $250,000, so we were asking for a total of $500,000, which would essentially cover 90% of the cost, and we didn't get the grant. So again, it's a decision whether, you know, how much we want to spend and how long the income comes out. So I think we're gonna reapply, and then we'll see where this grant comes in this summer, and if it looks good, then we'll move forward.
It makes sense if
I
it can
think so.
happen. Okay, you're going to answer this because I'm going to give you a budget number that he's not going to know. G 1990 contingency, 50,000.
It's like a quiz.
Come on, I can hear.
All right. So what that is we're starting our deficit reduction plan. So built into the rate is $50,000 worth of revenue. So we have to show there's no deficit reduction line in the New York State Budget Code. So we have to come up with an account. So we put it in as contingency, and that money's will be used to reduce our deficit. You'll see the same line item in the water fund, which is $70,000.
That was next. Yes. We think alike, you know that. Okay, my question is, did that money come out of the general fund?
No.
That's anticipated revenue?
This is
It's the rate. It's
contingency.
It's consistent.
that's-
We built it into the rate.
That's built into the rate.
Okay, that was my question. I think I'm actually done, guys. Thanks for the information,
Thank you.
and I hope the public learned something too.
Thank you. Okay. Would anyone else like to come up and ask some questions?
Hi, my name is Adam DiStefano. I live at 19 Prairie Avenue, Suffern, New York. I just have a few questions with the current budget. The first is, under departmental income, under other public safety, why are we predicting a $98,000 revenue from that when in the past we've only predicted $10,000? I was hoping
What happens is, as the mayor had said, Gitlow Towers and
Good Sam.
and Good Sam have decided they're going to give us some extra money. And what it entails is they're giving us money because they use our fire services and our police services. So we call that revenue, you know, it's revenue for use of public safety.
Okay.
So that's where we put it.
So you're putting that money there instead of payment in lieu of taxes?
Yes, because we don't, well, first of all, we haven't signed what they call a
Memorandum of
pilot program.
understanding.
Yeah, we didn't sign one of those, and they're
Correct.
just saying that this will give you the money, and we went to them and said, we never said give us money instead of tax.
And just so you know, in terms of, and you know, I know that Jack has dealt with this, and we talked about this when we initially started the discussions with Gitlow, is that pilot programs under HUD are only permitted in New York City. So the way we did it is to build into any future housing that a nonprofit would erect in the village, that they would have a, what do we call it, life and maintenance fee that would be built in. I think it's $250 per unit per year. And that's how we get the amount of the money with Gitlow and then on the second tower. So again, if the Salvation Army or another nonprofit, while
like any
Gitlow
expansion.
Yeah, well, Gitlow made a voluntary contribution and we worked an agreement for the second building, and the hospital is their own unique situation. If any nonprofit built new construction residential in the village, they would be required by our local law to pay a $250 per unit fee in perpetuity.
So the Salvation Army would not go into payment in lieu of taxes?
No, I think we'd go into the same.
For the Salvation Army right now has a pilot program with us where they're giving us $10,000. So I think what's going to happen is we'll amend that and increase, that line item.
So that's
actually, I did put, $10,000. If you look at the pilot, the second line of the budget, it's $155,509 now.
Okay.
So that was the extra $10,000 that minimum they're going to give us.
It was interesting because Tom had that out until after we met with them because we were afraid that if it backfired, would they not only increase it but they'd take away the 10 they were
Well, it may still backfire. But
All right, you're good.
okay.
Another question that I do have, I'm hoping one of you has this because I couldn't get it in time, is for last year's budget we said for other compensation we were expecting $300,000. I'm assuming that was for the sales of the property from the year before.
Correct.
Did we or no? That's something different. Okay, did we get the revenue
that's
for that,
You want to tell?
the Mawa. Yeah, what happened was, and again, part of it is saving money, but obviously you have to bring in revenue to accomplish it. So last year we were fortunate that in the budget we have an agreement where we have a settlement with the Mawa Mall.
Okay, yeah, the lawsuit.
And that's a one-time settlement. The other issue you're going to bring up is 120 Orange Avenue. Yes.
Yeah, because they're so close in price. That's why I wanted to.
What's pretty amazing about that is that was in the budget for $300,000. We did not sell it. So presumably that would create a $300,000 hole. Other unanticipated revenue and savings enabled the village to fill that $300,000 hole, and on top of it have additional money that kept us in the black. So theoretically, if we were to sell that building now again, that would be $300,000 of additional income. So I think that that's pretty amazing that a revenue, and look, I'm not gonna, in terms of how we looked at that property, there is a risk there. And, I think that the county and the hospital, when you have a one-shot like that and you put it in the budget, if it doesn't work out, it could create a hole. So going forward, I think that is something, when that's a big ticket item, that, we were fortunate that it worked out, but we should also, all municipalities should be very careful that when you sell an asset and you plan to sell it,
to have something
can actually happen that time. Because I know the county has put the hospital, you keep
several times they put it on the budget and
exactly, and then it doesn't happen. You build the deficit. We're fortunate that yes, theoretically, if everything else went perfectly right, no dollars less or more, we would have a $300,000 hole in the year end that's ending May 31st. But we were able to make it up with additional revenue, that even with that we're going to be in the black, and if we do sell the property, which we plan to in the future, there will be further revenue we can realize.
And we did receive possession experts.
Yes.
Of that 300.
How much did we
we're going to
receive?
receive by the end of the fiscal year, correct?
Well, we have a contract with them that may, I don't remember exactly.
Approval.
But they are going to have to.
Yeah, they are going to have to. All right, so we're going to get that eventually, though. Okay,
that'll be a timing issue.
All right. The other question I have is on the transportation chips. Normally, we've been making $60,000. Is there any new transportation in the area that we change it to? We believe we're going to make $90,000 in income.
The amount that we receive. Is told to us by the state.
Okay, so that's what we're going to get guaranteed. Yes. All right, good to know. Well, the reason I'm bringing up a couple of these issues is, one, where you mentioned in the previous budget, out of the $180,000, we expected $100,000 from the Gitlow towers from revenue. my concern is right now for this current, out of the $410,000 we're predicting for building permits, where $100,000 of that is also from the same Gitlow Tower, correct?
No.
Or no, it's from a different one?
Yes.
Okay, because it was the way that you made it sound before. It sounded like we were double dipping in the same project.
No. It's just when, the only thing is if the permit comes in early, right, before May 31st, which actually I think today is not going to be what they told me. We're looking more like June or July. If it were to come in early, that $170,000 would bring us way over the budget. Because again, we estimate revenue, and typically revenue comes after, but if it comes in early, we would then obviously realize a huge amount of money before May 31st this year, which would easily take us over our budget for, you know, and put us in a huge amount of surplus on top of what we expect. So then what would happen is obviously looking at that 400 for next year, if 170 came in early, then obviously we're not going to be able to make that up. So what we presumably do is amend the budget and take some of the extra money in our fund balance and then
use that, and it would reduce the tax.
Yeah, it's just again, we don't know exactly what.
Yeah, no, it's a rough estimate.
No, and based on, and look, the point is based on that sale of 120, I think that we have been very conservative in terms of how we place revenue. So anything that's in there has been approved.
The other question I have is for police services. We predicted $110,000 for the 2013 budget.
Increase.
We currently are only at $42,000.
For, sorry.
Yeah.
That's as of, yeah.
Well, the county's supposed to be reimbursing us, so we have 2 reimbursement requests out for, one is $25,000 and the other one's $18,000 that they owe us.
Okay.
And then as you know,
Tom, can you go up, sorry, on these
Yeah,
questions?
no, I can see it. No, I know exactly what you're talking about with that.
So we have outstanding approximately $43,000 in reimbursement requests.
And the odds of getting $20,000 then to break even is
Yes.
actually fairly good. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the reason I bring up a couple of these issues is, one is if we didn't receive the FEMA aid in 2012 for $670,000, we would currently have a deficit of $630,000 in revenue.
That's not true.
Okay, let me explain that. The FEMA revenue is basically a reimbursement of money we spent. If we didn't have the hurricane, we wouldn't have spent the $600,000, and we'd be in the same boat that we're in.
Yeah.
We couldn't predict that we were going to spend $600,000 because of a hurricane, so it's not in the budget. This is just a reimbursement of money that we had to spend because of a storm. So, you know,
Adam, you need additional explanation.
You know,
We
if
can explain
FEMA
that
didn't
after.
reimburse us, yes, we'd be missing $600,000, but it's because there was a storm, not because we budgeted bad or we wasted money. There was a hurricane that cost a lot of money that we can't get reimbursed for. But FEMA came along, reimbursed us, made us whole.
Okay, because from what I'm looking at from the one budget, we lost $270,000 in building permits because we did not reach the $483,000 goal. The property, as you know, from Orange Avenue did not sell, which left us in sales and property and equipment a $287,000 deficit in that area, along with a couple other areas that add up just a couple thousand, but those are the 2 main ones. The FEMA aid almost perfectly off balances that. That's why, looking at it, it doesn't make sense considering we lost over $500,000 in those 2 predictions, yet the FEMA aid was able to.
I'm sorry, you're I don't
No,
wanna,
that's why I'm just confused over that.
No, we can explain this at another time. I think you're missing again what it is. Yes, there was one that sale of the property.
$600,000 less expense.
Yes, we spent
$600,000
money.
less expense.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yes, we didn't make the revenue we wanted to,
But we were able to cut the spending down.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Because it's so close. It's a little eerie. All right, that's all. I do hope that we can hit the 410,000. It's
Thank
just
you.
I'm nervous about it because the same thing. We have a pattern of 3 years right now where we've come under by a significant amount, I'm hoping that since these are in front of the planning boards, that we will absolutely.
Actually, no, they're
Some of them are
approved.
being approved. They're
No,
approved.
they're all approved.
Okay.
They're all
Yes.
approved.
All right, since they're approved, I really do hope that they do end up building them as soon as possible so we can make that revenue.
That would be the purpose, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
Jean has.
Hello. In regard to the Capital Projects Fund, can you specify exactly what will be the money of $73,000 will be used for the fire equipment? What's being purchased?
You should give your name and address.
Oh,
Sorry.
We know who you are.
Jean Hennelly, 135 Wayne Avenue.
Sure. The capital budget, there's the roof on the fire.
Well, that's separate. This is the various
the
equipment.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Each year, the fire department gives me a list of various items that they have to purchase. They have circular saws that they use for cutting concrete and other saws for, cutting the cars up and different things. New hoses that are very expensive. These 100-foot, 200-foot hoses are expensive. And so they give me a list. Yeah. And, that's the total of what it is. If you want a copy of that, I can email it to you if you want. But basically, it's just equipment that they need every year because things break or get old and so on. But,
Thank you.
I can get you the list if you want me to email it to you.
And
Sure.
what about the $100,000 for town
Okay.
hall here?
What happened is the capital budget that you have right here has not been finalized.
Yeah, you want me to, I can explain. I think I should.
Because this was the original budget that they requested, the projects that they wanted to do, based on the fact that we try to maintain a level borrowing amount each year of like $500,000, so we don't have spikes up and down. Because whenever you have a spike that goes up, you have to raise the taxes, and then when it goes down, you don't give the money back, you just incorporate it into the tax rate. So what we want to do is keep it level so that our debt is always the same. So what happened was they come to us and said, these are the things we'd like to do. And then we said, okay, we have to do this, this, this. We have a certain amount of money, but we'd like you to do something else. So we haven't finalized this. I'm hoping we should be getting this cleared up within the next week.
Yeah, what we're, Ajit, it's the situation there is.
The total dollars is going to be about
Does not
the same.
change.
Well, ideally, just give me a description of what
Sure.
projects.
Can you connect to the, yeah, I'll explain, no problem. What we're looking to do is, again, we have $500,000 in the capital that's going to be consistent. We have an additional $25,000 that's in the water fund directly for capital. And then we have the CHIPS money, which is $90,000. And then we have another $90,000 in old road projects that we're going to allocate back. So essentially, our total capital budget for this year should be around $700,000. 500 that we're going to do our typical $500,000 borrowing, and 200 from CHIPS and old projects and other stuff that's budgeted. The items that he talked about for the firehouse and the roof. Then we have $50,000 committed for an I&I study, which is part of the overall sewer project. That's a long-term study of our sewer delivery system. Then there's $50,000, half of which is going to be from the water budget, and another $25,000 from the capital budget to do 2 repairs on wells. And then the large portion right now that we're backing into is we want to do another large road project because we've done over 40 roads. So we're looking at a couple of large significant projects in the village, and based on what we preliminarily budgeted out for as being our top priority, that could be anywhere from, let's say, $350,000 or $325,000 to $400,000. And so if there's anything left over, Charles Sawicki, Superintendent of Public Works, has a couple of items that are next on his list, including we need in our sign shop, we need a new sign machine and a couple of things. So depending on where we are with the roads, we're gonna do as much as we can. And then if anything's left over from there, he's gonna go down. Oh, and there's one police car.
Right.
Because what we're trying to do with the police cars is, We want to keep that consistent also, where we have like a municipal finance. Like as Tom said, we want tax stabilization so that we don't spike up, put in 50 grand for a car in 1 year in the budget, then the next year we don't need a car and we have 50 grand more built in. And even if you keep taxes flat, you've just raised taxes $50,000 a year forever. So we're trying to use municipal finance to keep our payments solid, but this year we had one extra car, so we put it in the capital budget just to pay it off in 1 year, so that way we're not building in another car payment every year into the taxes. And I think that's pretty much everything.
No, the one thing that I did ask, I didn't hear you mention, the 100,000 for the village hall, what money is going into the
No, I
village
don't,
hall?
I think that's...
We're not gonna do it, it's out.
What was it gonna be?
Oh, we renovated
Well,
it, right? The painting?
They were gonna put in a new heating system,
Okay, New Haven.
because it doesn't work too well.
Yeah, the
It
priority...
seems to be working very well this evening.
Yeah, well, it depends where. In
But
the evenings,
it
this
works,
side of the...
it works at night, not in the daytime.
There's no heat in there.
It starts working in this part of the building around 4 p.m.
Okay, so that's next.
No, it's again, Gene, it's a matter of just prioritizing, and we wanted to do one major road project again this year. So that's where we're committing pretty much everything that's not absolutely necessary.
This number's gonna be basically the same, you know. At the end of the day, it's
Right.
just how we reallocate everything.
But the 2013 capital projects, have they all been completed, or is anything not put on the table?
Sorry, I can't.
Oh, from last year?
Has anything been put on the table from last year's budget?
No.
Fund?
Whatever
Everything's
was in
been paid? Everything's
whatever
been-
was in last year's budget, capital budget, yeah, that was it.
You received it? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah,
Sometimes you say you're gonna get it, and then for whatever reason, it doesn't go till the next year.
No, we
Okay.
took care of everything.
Okay.
Yeah, the capital budget's pretty clear. We look to borrow $500,000 every year, and
Oh,
we
I
don't,
understand that. I just
and we don't
where-
have to
I want to make
have.
sure it's going to
Yeah.
what it said,
Correct.
you
Yeah, no.
wanted it to go
What-
to.
When we release the budget, like, it'll have, whatever's in there, that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Okay.
but realistically,
This was just a preliminary
Got it.
budget, you know, so.
Tom, realistically, Terry, though, but we don't really. I mean, legally, I think it's when we go out to borrow the money, right? That's when we actually, right, would have to say exactly what we do.
Of course, you have to have
Yeah.
the items in the bond resolution.
Okay.
Okay, and, what else did I want to ask?
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
As far as the curbside solid waste, I noticed that has gone up once again this year. And the estimate, it seems like you're going to be even a shortfall, unless this is a typo. I just noticed this coming in. The revenue versus the appropriations is $30,000 off.
No,
No, this is what's coming in, right?
there's 846. It's gonna be,
This is what your expenses, and this is the chart.
What page you on, Gene?
SR 1-22.
using the top line.
Oh, I don't know.
Sale of recyclables, $30,000. Sale of recyclables, right here.
Oh, okay.
Sale of recyclables. That's $30,000 revenue.
So, but this is total.
Plus
Why isn't?
30,000 plus what we charge them comes out to
Okay.
846.
Okay, all right. That's not clearly marked, but that's all right. But like in the actuals for 2012, where does the extra revenue go if there's a or is there because if you're saying that's a
Where's 2012?
Goes in the following year.
the recyclables for 2011 was 38 plus the 726, that's 756. And the
Yeah.
allocations was 714.
Do you want to, Jimmy? This is one item. Do you want to just discuss? I mean, we can figure this.
But yeah, I'm just saying, I'm wondering why the cost is going up so much, basically.
Well, what happens is, the guys, the tipping fees have gone up in the last couple of years. Tipping fees are what we pay to the
Solid Waste Authority.
Solid Waste Authority.
Gas money.
That has gone up from $113,000 over the last 5 years to $165,000. That's one item. Then what happens is, the 6 men that work there, well, we have to pay their pension too. So that's gone up over the last 5 years. And then their medical insurance has gone up.
No, I'm okay.
So, these, you know, everything has gone up for these guys. We're doing our best to keep it as best.
Well, last year, what did we raise it? Was it,
Last year.
No, we raised it last year.
Yeah.
but what did we raise it last year? What was the percent?
Look at the gas
It went up
pumps.
$24 for the year,
So it's three, yes, yeah.
and then another $22 this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a situation that's pretty much,
It's-
again, it's to a large degree, you know, a pass-through of what our costs are, and based on, thank you. Employment.
All right, I guess that's it for
Anything
now.
else?
But again, I'd like to reiterate what the people before me spoke about. I hope the monies that you anticipate to come in, because it just seems like you're, you know, making it look pretty. That's all.
Well, look, at the end of the year, we
Thank you.
closed our books on 11. We were in the hole by $27,000, which is 1/3 of 1%. So that would mean if you had $100, that was your entire budget, we were off by 33 cents. So just in terms of the percentages.
Well, that was
so
with
that's
the
pretty
luck
close.
of-
Let me just finish. 2012, which we just got the draft budget, on $100, we were in the black by $60,000, so that was 60,000, which would mean on a budget of $100, we were up at about 80 cents. And this year, with 11 weeks left, we're going to be in the black again. So yes, does everything work out perfectly? No, but at the end of the year, when our books are closed or audited, we have been within 1/2 of 1% of what we estimated 14 months before the year closes. So we'll get there. That's what I go to sleep every night being concerned about. And we'll continue to fight for you, Gene, every day.
Well, I wish there'd be
Thanks.
something on the capital budget for the emergency crossing on the, you know, to the West Ward. I mean, that it keeps getting pushed off the, you know, to the back burner. I think instead of being in the, you know, making everything look good in the black, that we should.
That would not, just so
should
you
put
know,
the-
Gene, that would not affect the capital, it would be capital. As I said, and this is important, the capital budget is consistent. So yes, if you believe that that should be an item that's prioritized in the $500,000, that is a valid concern, and we've looked for funding
I
for that.
understand, and then
Let me just
other
finish.
items
Let me
could
finish.
go to-
Let me finish. So what would happen in that situation is it would have no effect on the budget. It's just a question of being prioritized of where it is. So it wouldn't affect the rate, it would just affect whether we did as many roads this year. So the consistent budget, the capital budget, other than the consistent debt payment, which we keep consistent, has no impact on the levy or whether we're in the black or the red. I just want to be clear about that one.
Well, I think that the money that we got from MAWA should have gone towards the West Ward intersection. So thank you.
Okay, is anyone?
Hi, good evening. Roy Chudy, 16 Lonigan Drive. My question is, it's a little touchy because this is what I did for a living, but I would like to know what percentage of the budget is our police department?
In terms of what, personnel or?
No, in monetary.
If you, the police department, I mean, I'm gonna give you without, with just salaries and their actual department, without health care and benefits is about $4 million, right? Yeah, 4 million. 4 million plus health care and everything is what, another?
Like 43%.
Correct.
The police?
Okay.
It's the biggest single. No,
Yeah.
look, I'll give the chief a lot of the chief's budget is about $4 million, and we're not including health care and pension, which just salaries and what he does. Of that budget, about $300,000 of it, or $400,000, is his actual operating expense, which he keeps extremely consistent every year. You know, in terms of purchasing new equipment, we're always going for grants. He's very aggressive in that. But yeah, I mean, it's expensive. I think, though, relative to the other surrounding municipalities, we get a much better service. And our police, on a salary scale, you know, we're not comparing it to South Carolina or your taxes. I always say to people, look, if you think your taxes are too high, they are, then, you know, you should move out of this area. But as between living in Suffern or Montebello or Airmont or Mahwah or any of the surrounding areas, I don't think that you'll see better services than you have here in the village.
Yeah, I would never question the integrity of
I wasn't saying,
our
I'm
chief
saying-
or anything like that. I have the greatest respect for that. But just on the numbers, I'm looking at 12 full-time police officers and 7 sergeants. So that means basically like 1 sergeant for every 1.2 police officers.
Look, we do have, I echo the concerns that I believe is a matter of policy, that police officers, to the extent possible, you want to see them feet on the ground in the neighborhoods fighting crime. Yes, so that's something that.
But you know, I'm just a little confused with the disparity of so many sergeants as opposed to so many less police officers, because I know you could say apples and oranges, but I'll take New York City because that's what I know best, and it's 1 for 12. 1 for 1.2 is a little.
And then you have 5 part-timers. Look,
Yeah,
I don't disagree with you. And I think it's an issue as we go forward. We'll look to keep
That's all I asked. If they could, you know, keep that in mind and visit that when they have to do budgetary constraints.
Correct, yes.
Okay, that's all I want. Thank you very
Hey,
much.
Roy, if it's any solace, I've spoke at the Clark. The police department's sort of like a college team, laden with seniors and 50-year seniors. And, you know, hopefully over the next few years, the number of sergeants can decline and the number of police officers, 1, can increase. So,
Yeah, I get it.
I mean,
I understand the ballpark. I understand it. Thank you very much.
Okay, does anyone else?
What do we have to do? We just close the public comment.
Okay. Sure.
Split the difference, 1.
there's no audience.
You're asking me what day it is? I saw on the budget 2 part-time building inspectors.
Correct.
Now, I know you're anticipating all this building. If we hire these people and they don't bill for 6 months, we're tied into 2 salaries for 6 months.
I think, look, this is something that was really, if you look at the budget, the big change. We had 2 part-time building inspectors. We've had them for a while. And one has been working very part-time, the other, Joe Giacaruso. I think with the amount of work, and it's just even in the preparation for these projects, as they are really moving forward, you know, even the pre-construction, even all that, I didn't think it would be appropriate to budget $400,000 in fees and not to say, okay, if we're bringing in all this revenue,
no, that makes sense.
Spending more money on. You know what I'm saying? Because I think we'd come into the same thing and say, well, you're expecting $400,000 of revenue and you're keeping the same budget in your personnel.
No, I agree. But my problem is, the way construction is, they may not put a shovel in the ground for 6 months. You're tied into 2 part-time salaries that are quite generous.
Actually, the salaries, just so you know, in terms of the rate that we pay of $35 an hour compared to a recent advertisement in the Village of Montebello was $40. So I think that we're, you know, I think actually we're on the lower end, but I do think that, and it's a testament to everybody here, that people want to work in Suffern, and actually it commands a premium. And it's not just about dollars, but I think that unfortunately, I felt that less of if we end up paying them, which I don't think we do, because I think we'll be busy and they'll be working, but I just didn't think it was appropriate on the other end. If you came back here and said the other end where you have $400,000 of revenue, everyone's gonna be busy, and you haven't increased the line.
Right.
So we'll see. I think, and I said to the board here, going forward, you gotta realize we're gonna have 180 more units at Gitlow, between the 2 condominiums, another, you know, 70 units. So going forward, plus the construction and a significant building now at 30,000 square feet on 2 floors at where the OTB is, that going forward there's going to be more fire inspections. And right now our fire inspector's part-time and busy, so I would think at some point maybe one of our building inspectors gets certification, starts doing. I think we're going to have enough work. So
no, I'm not questioning if you get the building you're projecting that you're going to have work. My question is, when are we hiring the second one for 19.5 hours a week? Or is it going to stay at the...
We have two now. We have two now.
Yeah, but one of them's making approximately $5,000,
Yes,
which
but
means he's not working a heck of a
He
lot.
has been, the thing is, he has been very recently as things are getting building, so I think that, again, I'm in the business of trying to keep expenses as low. I just think that it was the prudent thing to do. I guess I can just leave it at that. We'll see, we'll see. They work hours, it's not guaranteed, but I do think that they're going to be
So then they're not guaranteed 19 and a half every week?
19 hours, right? 19 or?
No, 19 and a half. It's 40-hour week.
Yeah.
19.
They may not be working this, but I think that they will.
Okay, and my last question, and I should ask Tom this while he was bobbing up and down. How much did we take out of the general fund to augment the tax increase? Did we transfer money from the general fund into the 2014 budget? None.
None.
Okay, fine.
Jim.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, no, I think what's appropriate, and I've mentioned this in, and Tom and I's talk about this, and, in the past we've been here, and when we have a significant fund balance, we do believe we should allocate it. My feeling is that you want to be, right now we're sitting at 60,000, plus we're in the black, and again, with the Salvation Army coming in, we may get a further decrease, but I think some of that money will go to the fund balance.
That's fine.
But I would not want to allocate
Fund balance is a good thing.
Yeah, but I would not want to allocate it unless we have, at least over $100-something thousand in a balance just for a rainy day.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I don't get any credit. All the credit goes to Tom? Okay. If there's anything else, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
The meeting.
Is there a second? Favor? Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.